Hello, Tyrell. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, Jack. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thanks. Let's kick off. Why don't you start? Just explain a bit about yourself and AICX and what you're up to.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. Yeah. So we're obviously a Munich-based, classically AI consulting company that grew into a software development company, focusing really since the peak and this great wave Gen AI brought on bringing the AI journey, not only Gen AI but also deep AI, past AI as we know it, to different European and German companies of diverse sizes and needs in diverse industries. So, we started this journey not too long ago, together with two other entrepreneurs and myself, just building also focusing on the goodness of the humans that are in our group as well, trying to surround yourself with great people that have vision and have passion about what we're doing, and joining together, just much like with partners, trying to build a network of like-minded people to build great products and bring pretty much everything that we benefit from, Jack, on a daily basis to every employee in every company we can get our fingers in, right? So this is where we focus.
So I feel like you and I are in a similar place. There's a lot of people that know nothing about AI, generative AI. There's a lot of highly technical people who can, go into depth on the intricacies of various different vector databases and God knows what else. But there aren't that many people who are thinking about this from a business perspective, from like adoption. How do I actually deliver benefits from that? Is that what you're finding? And have you got some sort of stories about that?
Yeah, it developed quite fast into just thinking about it as a business, of course, doing business, trying to bring it through to companies, and then it became really fast a human topic. So bringing the human back into focus, like when you say adoption, this has to do with the humans interacting with AI, and we saw that very early on. Me and my co-founders as leaders of this company, and also partners with many great companies like yourself at Great Wave. We have a responsibility now, because we tend to forget, as although we're industry agnostic, but we are very specifically driven by this huge technological advancements that are happening with AI, and we forget that much of the general public, the general workers in the world, and even the leaders in diverse positions, they're still far behind or at the beginning of their journey, and we should see it as our obligation to find a way that is both enjoyable and engaging, and not in any way giving limitations to those that don't have this digital foot up, right? So we have to sort of bring this next digital wave, this next digital revolution to as many people as possible. Therefore, it also serves us as companies to help the technology in its proper ethical use, but also literate use by the everyday Joe all the way to the next CEO at some company. It's very important that we see this as our responsibility.
So I just sort of unpicking that a bit. So we're going to drift into the controversial here. So I'd be interested in your view. I love a bit of controversy. I get the sense. So one of the phrases I use, we're living through these what I call LLM wars, right? So everyone's competing with each other. It's driving down price. It's making these LLMs super usable. There's no ads running across them. There's no, all this sort of stuff, right? It's basically because there's money being poured in, and we as the consumer are benefiting from that. The only way those big hyperscale language model providers are going to get all that investment back is by scooping us in and capturing us in their ecosystem. And I think they're all fighting the same battle that was fought over cloud. They all think there's going to be 2 or 3 big winners. There's going to be a winner takes all type scenario here. Now, I have an alternate thesis, which is actually, I think we're going to see a disaggregation of the language model world. We're not going to see, 2 or 3 big winners. And the job of consumers of language model, early adopters, the sort of clients we're talking to, is to avoid being sucked into the net of any of these big hyperscale language model providers. And you want to keep a layer of abstraction from your business and the business use case, the business benefit you're getting, and the language models you're using, so that you can pick and choose at will and you can chop and change. Now, am I being massively naive? Am I totally wrong-headed? What's your sort of view on that whole scene?
Not naive in any way. This is it's all about the noise, right? So the most noise is around the large language models, the bigger players. It's played out in the media, it's played out in politics, it's played out on an international scale, and the attention serves the purpose of the adoption and an awareness around AI, which is important. It serves this purpose. The advancement of the technology, that is where we all benefit, and everybody benefits from this war you're talking about that's happening. What we see happening at AICX and with our customers and our partners, and we believe in it, is there is a David and Goliath story that is becoming to exist for those that know this story in our lore, that we as partners, startups, right, in the AI world, or even smaller size companies who've been around and adopted to the AI wave, stick together, find the benefits in the niche, find the benefits of your product, of your service for these niche cases that can't be handled by the heavy hitters or the larger companies who have taken over the tech environment as we know it today. Because they're serving the mass public, the mass general, the mass B2B scope. And so we need to be able to focus on bringing it to those niche areas. And in fact, then together in our partnerships, find where the technology aligns, find where the business aligns, and find where these partnerships can lead to the benefit of our customers, but us also as smaller players and vulnerable players in the market. And we've seen this with many of our partners. Some partners have disappeared, unfortunately, over the last 2 years. Some have been purchased by larger companies, which we wish them the best. This is a positive ending for some companies. And sometimes companies coming together, not even with mergers, but just partnerships where you benefit from network, you benefit from technology, and you benefit from the openness to not protect your product, but to be open about the advancements you're having to share with each other. And we find that for some reason, this AI community of startups is very open, where we should be protective. If you're thinking in a wise perspective business case, we're building this David versus the Goliaths. Although we're benefiting from whatever the Goliaths are creating, these larger companies, which I won't name them because we all know who they are. And we already see it in 2025. There is a proliferation, there is a surge of smaller language models that you could build on your own tech in a company or as a provider, where if you focus on the niche, on the expert in the specific focus areas of AI, then you become less dependent on these larger language models, and you leave that for the masses, you leave that for the training and for this race they have. Yeah.
Just can I just touch on this niche thing, because I think it's super interesting. So, I have again, it's a sort of pet theory that I'm happy to have debunked, but ultimately any real application of Gen AI, like forgetting, I don't know, summarize my emails or, help me write a recipe, real industry, enterprise scale application Gen AI is a niche application, right? So because if you're a law firm, you're not just, you might have Copilot in your law firm, but for, a practical use case, it's going to be a Gen AI agent, use case, whatever we want to call it, application that is at least as specific as the people you have, right? It's going to be focused on family law or, whatever it's corporate, some minutiae thing. And so I wonder if you find, so I have a bit of a theory that most people I speak to haven't quite made that intellectual leap that there is a generic layer of the technology that we're all engaging with every day via ChatGPT or whatever. But everything that is material in an enterprise environment will be a niche use case, and therefore it requires adaptation, it requires business adoption, it requires consulting, it requires services, it will require a platform to manage it, all those kinds of things. Like, again, where's your view on that?
Very, very strong view, and it leads into some of our values as a company, but and as people. It's not one or the other. So the need for the use and adoption of AI in your everyday life and your work experience, right? The two things which govern your time, is definitely there are these assistants, let's just call it assistants or generalists. This we could attribute to large language models. This we could attribute to the chat interfaces that we interact with every day and continue to utilize. These are these generalists, but the specific cases where you're getting to are existing. The leap from one to the other, or the use of both, which of course in my everyday life this is very apparent. This happens once you become more adoptive, more knowledgeable about the bandwidth, what is possible in the technology. When you don't know much and you're starting your journey, these generalists they give you this aha wow effect. We need this excitement as humans nowadays more than ever to get us engaged with a new technology or a new frontier. We need that wow effect, if it's video generation or image generation or text generation or analytical generation or code building. You need that somehow, that wow effect. Now, once you've had that, you feel a bit more comfortable. And this has a lot to do with human comfort with technology and not being adverse to the technology. And once you have that barrier pushed through, that shame barrier of I understand with what I'm interacting, then you can start getting into these specific use cases where you say, how can I apply this now specifically to my needs? Whether it's you privately managing the complexities of your home life and your health situations or your everyday schedule with your families, all the way to your specific profession where you're talking about interaction with a software or a process or ownership of a certain section of a company, a certain part of the value chain. And that's when it becomes so variable and so amazing. This is what serves our purpose a bit in the market, is to make that bring the people to that barrier where they know they can do more and they understand the value. Then you can present them with the opportunity to have this specific this expertise use case or specific agents, they're called nowadays, or hyper agents as we call them at AICX, where you can then have it specifically to a micro function or a certain process. And this will go inside. This was adding a new layer, as we see. It's all the buzz now. It's not a new thing that I'm bringing up here. We're adding a new layer between softwares and humans. Yes. And software is, of course, an enabler of everything digital. So AI can be put in the form of a software. So thank you very much, Jack. That has a place. That DIY effect, that feeling of building myself and having an interface. We humans need something visually and tactical we can work with because we have those senses. But as soon as we want to proliferate AI to be more intuitive and more communicative and more human-like, which is something we promote with AICX too, we call it very carefully and non-controversially and ethically humanizing the AI and reducing the barriers between interface and human so that the interaction with the AI can be as close as possible as you would have if you could imagine a colleague that's just digitally connected to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you got any good stories that you can share about some of the stuff that you've done or some of the big successes you've had, or where you found it has really delivered benefit for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, making a story, you have to make the stories genuine. Making a story that's not a plug is very important, right? So
it can be a plug. Go fill your boots.
But there's a very wholesome story that I always very early on had, and the tech has come so much further since then. However, we began a lot with AICX, with many of our customers, lighting the spark, as we called it. We take hundreds of their employees and their executive management and their leaders, and we just train them. What is AI? What is Gen AI? What is teaching them so they have literacy? How do you prompt? The original stuff that you see still very important, even though we've kind of surpassed that in our focus, your company and us. But this is still very important. Yeah. And I literally saw I had the humble opportunity to teach some of these people, and we joined and are very personable with these employees and these managers. And you get people that employees that are very valued and have 30 years experience in a certain company, and if it's pharma industry or if it's the fashion industry, whatever it was, you get these people that have been there 30 years and they have issues even with emails. They have issues with talking, the landing meetings or getting the camera to work in this new digital age where we're all every single day faced with turning our camera on. Now getting one of these employees in this room to drag and drop even a file to interact with AI with this file, that action itself was the hurdle. Yes. As soon as this interaction happened, this woman switched immediately to voice interaction with the AI model, was starting talking to this model as if it was a human. You could notice there was this leapfrog happening. Yeah. And this was an aha moment of mine where I said, okay, well, let's not leave these people behind just because it's more difficult to break that hurdle that is not in our area. We're not teaching them AI, we're teaching them how to interact with the technology, if we look at it very humanistically. And once you've done that, the adoption of the AI becomes as easy as we did when we picked up a phone when they started coming out in our generation, or social media for our children. These adoptions become far easier if you can find those bridges that bring them to that. And I'm very proud of that. And now we don't need to do this in human form anymore. We sometimes do that because there's a great benefit to physically being around the people that are learning the AI. It's a big euphoria that happens. However, now you can have the agents themselves present themselves in a way that they are so human-like,
consumable,
that if you just put that in front of the person, seeing this effect of the eyes open, oh, I can talk to this, and this agent or this support function, right? This software, this intelligence is now talking to me. I don't have to type it. I don't have to translate somehow my form of communication so that it understands it. It's all about, I can talk to it as if it's a human, and it will fill in the gaps for me, which means I don't have to worry about, more and more I have to worry less about adoption. I just have to worry about the opportunity to deal with the right type of tool. So
I think that's so interesting. So I tell this story all the time about we thought that our platform would sell because of all the amazing high-tech features, all the RAG pipelines and the valuation and the guardrails and all the rest of it. And actually, the biggest benefit our clients have found is the fact that what our platform does is it takes AI out of the kind of black box of the IT department. And yes, the IT department are involved and they help with the plumbing and make sure that it all fits into their architecture. But the AI gets built by the team that are going to consume it. And then the next day, it's in the hands of the practitioners and they're giving feedback and they're improving it. And the big amazing thing about that was we understood that practitioners were going to improve the AI by giving feedback. But what we didn't realize was that process was also going to improve the practitioners by helping them understand where the gaps in their data are, or where their prompting or queries weren't quite right. And so together you go on this journey, and if you bring the end user in right from day one, you end up with such a much stronger platform and such a much stronger end product, essentially. I'm conscious of time. I want to do one more controversial thing while I've got us here. So we're two European, let's not talk about Brexit, two European AI businesses. We've got a massive geopolitical shake-up going on around us. How important do you think it is for your customers and for our customers that we're not a big Silicon Valley, we're not big Silicon Valley monsters, and we are much more sort of close to home in terms of providing some of these AI services?
Yeah. So I truly believe that it is becoming more and more the request of the market, of the industry, to have a trusted, compliant, legally coherent a partner that they can work with. The size does not matter. Size is the only thing that size matters in is the recognition of the brand, the access to that brand. However, with nowadays, when we talk about the ability to market, the ability to outreach, the ability to connect and find good partners, find those small partners. Yeah, find those smaller companies. We consider ourselves a small company, and we are proud of that fact. We don't aspire to be a 1,000-person company that spans Silicon Valley and the Eastern world as well, because that does not bring the value to our customers. Our customers are European customers, whether they're internationally abundant, but they're based in Europe. They're based with the same, let's say, compliance and legal guardrails that we enjoy and we need for the proliferation of AI, and therefore we feed off of that requirement and that which was given us by the local authorities and speakers of power when it comes to delegating and deliberating on how we should treat AI from a compliance and security perspective. And so we are, I think, in Europe, we are definitely at the forefront when it comes to handling AI in the correct way. There's much more support that can happen when it comes to the smaller companies, smaller startups. However, there's some great strides when it comes to how Europe handles this David versus Goliath story, and how there's a form of protectionism happening, which I, as a Canadian in Europe, I'm very aware of that, and it's a very big dichotomy in my life. However, when it comes to the business, it is a very important that these super regions of the world, speaking Europe, speaking North America, speaking the BRIC countries, it's very important that we create our own ecosystem and reliance on our own players. And that means finding those unicorns, finding those smaller, medium-sized companies, and sometimes larger companies that are based in the region, that understand the norms, requirements, and regulations, as well as the needs of the user. Yeah. And not to forget, the users are different around the world, and how we interact with AI now, because it's so diverse. Yeah.
So last question then. Someone's listening who is thinking about adopting Gen AI, trying to transform productivity in their organization. What's your big message? What's your starting point, or what should they have front of mind from a AICX perspective?
It comes down to the base. We'll say it again and again. AI does not steal jobs. AI does not replace jobs. AI increases and enhances your ability to perform your existing job or grow into a new market. And embracing that and showing that to your employees, to your mentees, to those that especially those that have an influence. It's very important that those that have an influence continue this story and continue the positive movement of AI and the adoption in a positive and ethical way, and do this with playing around with the newest technology, but compliantly also adding platforms or agent structures into your environment, so that it is abundantly accessible for your employees, for your colleagues, and for yourself. And that's the only way to get used to it.
And I think I would add my one message is it's AI, not magic, right? It still requires people. You still got to check it. You're still going to have to audit it. It's still got to be compliant. It's still just technology. It's just software on data. So make sure you don't confuse AI with magic, and get all the kind of the basics in place so that you can actually implement it beyond just sort of showing a swanky proof of concept. That's my view.
Always keep a passion. Yeah, always remember the passion. Every new technology turn that comes out, embrace it with passion, and keep that light spark lit inside of you. That's the most important part. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. That was amazing, and I'll hold it there.